Greetings. Welcome back to Collect and Smoke. I'm the co-host, Razul Wallace. And today I just wanted to talk to you guys about a concept that I had a conversation with another investor about a few years ago. And the conversation was around the value of financing from a bank versus just buying a property outright. Now, he was someone that was in a position to do that. But even if someone is in that position, and they have the ability to do that, I would argue against it. Now, it depends on what your priorities are. You know, a lot of times once you get to a point where you are set financially, you're not really worried about growing as much, but securing your wealth and your freedom and your time. So when you're in that position, you might not be so much interested in what is going to maximize your financial growth or equity, but what's going to preserve your time and energy. But for someone that is growing or in the beginning and they are looking to grow their wealth, I'm going to explain why I think it doesn't make sense to pay off your mortgage. So I'm going to give you a quick illustration. Imagine you have 100,000. I know that's a lot, but it's just an easy number to work with for this concept. Imagine you have $100,000. And you can either buy this house outright for $100,000 and you don't have to worry about a mortgage, or you can take that same $100,000 and instead of buying that one house for $100,000, you can go to a bank, get a loan, and leverage that $100,000 and say, because they might ask for, let's say, 20% down. If they ask for 20% down, that means that you can essentially get $500,000 worth of houses. Or in this illustration, I'll just say 5 houses instead of 1. So illustration number 1, you got $100,000, one $100,000 home, right? We're in 2024. Let's say in 2025, the value's appreciated it and it's going to 103,000. Illustration number 2, you've purchased 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 homes for $100K each, right? Right. 5 homes, $100K each. That means that in 2025, this one's going to 103, 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 this one's going to 103. So now between the 5 of them, you have 515,000. So you see the difference here between the 103,000 versus the 515. On your original $100,000 investment, this one is in one place. This one is broken up between 5 places, 20K in each. 20K here, 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 so on and so forth, right? So that same 100,000, to start, you have a 100,000 in equity between 5 properties total, or 100,000 equity in 1 property total. But the appreciation on the 1 property, that same 3% on 1 property, you gained $3,000 in additional equity in your property. But between 5 properties, you gained $15,000 in additional equity. So in that original $100,000 investment, if you do it this way, you made $3,000 or 3%. But if you've done it this way, you've earned $15,000 or 15% just by holding on to it for that year. The appreciation you got through this method was 15% more than the appreciation you got in this method. Not to mention the cash flow and all things like that. Now, one of the expenses that you won't have to have in your operating expenses is a mortgage. So that will cut into the net cash flow for each property. But I would argue that what you gain in appreciation annually over time will offset that and add more value. In my journey, the start of my journey, my focus was on cash flow. because my main goal was just to have more disposable income and to be able to save some more money, and then hopefully eventually to leave the bank when I was working there. But after I sold my first property, which was 7 years into owning it, I lived there for probably the first 5 or so, I think. So I didn't have to pay capital gains tax on that income. It was quite eye-opening, and that's the first thing that happened that shifted my focus from cash flow to appreciation. And I think that's a common part of anyone's journey to wealth, is that they kind of shift gears. You go through different phases and you shift gears. So cash flow is significant. It's very important because cash flow will allow you to hold on to a property as long as you need to, so you're not forced to sell in a down market and lose out on money. You have the flexibility and freedom to sell whenever is the most advantageous for you. You don't want to buy a property that's, has negative cash flow or breaking even each month, because things are going to happen and you have to budget for that. You have to set those funds aside. You're going to have vacancies. So if you have cash flow, one, you have money that you can set aside to do these things. And two, you don't want to do all that work for nothing. Yeah, you can get the appreciation at the end, but you want to be able to appreciate some of that along the journey, just because, not every day is guaranteed, right? We can leave this earth any day. So we can't take that for granted, and we want to be able to enjoy some of it along the way. There may be periods where you can't take any money from a property, and you're just reinvesting that in renovations or repairs. So cash flow is important. I say all that to say that cash flow is important. You need to do your numbers, which I'm going to get back to and finish showing you guys. You need to do your numbers. But if it's cash flowing and you're building equity, that's a great formula for building wealth. And I think that's it. Thank you guys for taking the time to watch my video, and remember to rein yourself in.